Hello, this is Captain Chaudhary. Today I'm going to speak about limitation of liability for maritime claims. This is a wonderful tool which a ship owner has got. Ship owner might have one ship or he might have many. He might have assets spread around. Now, one of the ships might cause damage to environment. In some other country, it might cause damage to the infrastructure. The damage that is caused to the infrastructure, to the port, and the claimants could be many, and the claim might be of a very big size. Now, what happens in case of limitation of liability for maritime claims? Uh, the port would want to recover the money from the ship owner before the ship sails. I mean, there could be many ways in which the money can be enforced. One of the popular ways is limitation of liability for maritime claims depending on the tonnage of the vessel. Like, depending on the tonnage of the vessel, the ship owner has to basically pay or deposit only the amount which is fixed for the tonnage of that size. Now, if you see the damage that is caused by the ship, on the ship or outside the ship, connected with the operations of the ship, right? The damages could be of phenomenal value, right? And it is not only the infrastructure damage, it is also the other liabilities, for example, wreck removal liabilities and pollution liabilities. So liabilities can be tremendous. But here is a mechanism by which, according to the tonnage of the vessel, the ship owner deposits a sum, say in High Court or any organization that is decided for this. Now, in the maritime world, probably the trend earlier was like you arrest the ship and whatever is the value of the ship plus cargo or whatever freight that ship has earned, etc. There could be various ways in which the ship owner had to pay the money, right? So there were different ways of recovering the money from the ship. In 1924, for the first time, Comité Maritime, it universally made something which should be acceptable to everybody. But 1924 convention in this respect was basically a failure, with very few countries ratifying this convention. 1957 convention, which is successor to 1924 convention, was more popular. The countries world over, the maritime fraternity in general, they thought that this convention also would not be sufficient to satisfy the needs of the damages, basically because of inflation and other factors. So there was this 1976 convention, right, which was based on assuming or calculating the liability depending on the tonnage of the vessel. And there were two categories basically. One is life and injury, and other one is damage to the property. Now, limitation of liability for maritime claims convention 1976 actually replaced 1957 convention, and it came into force in 1986. Subsequently, there was this protocol 1996 which came into force in 2004. It substantially increased the compensation rates, right? And the latest we have today is the amendment to the protocol, that is 2015 rates are applicable now. Now, if we look at Article 1 of the Convention, the persons who are entitled to limit the liability are: number one, ship owners, including the owners, charterer, manager, and operators of a seagoing ship. This, of course, must involve the liability of charterer to the other people other than the ship owner. If he has a responsibility to indemnify the ship owner according to the charter party, he must comply with that. That indemnity cannot be limited. Salvors, which include any person rendering services in direct connection with the salvage operations, also including operations such as removing cargo from a ship, raising a wreck, or certain preventive measures. Now, salvor who is providing his services to a ship, now he himself can incur liabilities. Now, the salvor might be on the salvage tug, whose tonnage is very small, or the salvor might be on the ship, or for that matter, salvor might be even a diver underwater. In all these cases, the salvor, if he incurs a liability, those liabilities should be limited. Any person for whose act, neglect, or default the ship owner or the salvor is responsible. Thus, applying the principle of vicarious liability. Vicarious liability means the principal is responsible for the acts of servants and agents, right? And in addition to that, the insurer is able to limit his liability to the same extent as the insured himself. Article 2.1 of the convention says that the following claims can be subjected to the limitation. The claims in respect of loss of life or personal injury or loss of or damage to property, including damage to harbor works, basins and waterways and aids to navigation, occurring on board or in direct connection with the operation of the ship or with salvage operations and consequential loss resulting therefrom. The damages which arise or claims which arise out of the damage that is caused to infrastructure and harbor works could be phenomenal. So this is a wonderful tool in favor of the ship owner. Limitation of his liability. The Article 2.1b is claims in respect of loss resulting from delay in the carriage by sea of cargo, passengers or their luggage. As you know, in Hamburg rules there is a provision for delay. Likewise, under Hague-Visby rule, the parties can contract, they can have an agreement in respect of delay. Now, delay can cause loss, and it is said that whether the loss is from within the factors inside the ship or it is because of a factor outside the ship. The ship owner has got right to limit his liability. Then paragraph C is in respect of other loss resulting from infringement of rights other than contractual rights occurring in direct connection with the operation of the ship or salvage operation. Now paragraph D is claims in respect of raising, removal, destruction or rendering harmless of a ship which is sunk, wrecked, stranded or abandoned, including anything that is or has been on board such ships. Now that this paragraph talks about raising the wreck, etc., there can be a significant variation in this paragraph owing to the changes which have taken place in recent times, particularly after the wreck removal convention has come in force, or a country might have reservation in respect of removal of wreck. The next paragraph is claims in respect of removal, destruction or the rendering harmless of the cargo of the ship. This could be from ship afloat or sunk. Then paragraph F is claims of a person other than the person liable in respect of measures taken in order to avert or minimize the loss for which the person liable may limit his liability in accordance with this convention and further loss caused by such measures.